They brutally killed a pregnant woman. For THRM, this was a normal mistake until they counter brutality of her husband on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. Over in Aleppo, Syria, two rebels get dropped quickly as a team of Navy SEALs pops up from the water, ready for action. One of them is John Kelly. They meet up with CIA handler Ritter, who casually drops that their next task is to go save a CIA agent locked up in a nearby building. But here's the kicker. Ritter admits he has no clue how many enemies are in there. John's not too happy with that vague info and makes it known. Later that night, the SEALs quietly move in on the building. They silently take out a guy, keeping watch, then blast their way inside. After heading upstairs, they catch some heat, but the team handles it like pros and takes the bad guys out. Once the dust settles, they grab the agent. But John notices something strange. The enemies weren't local militia, they were ex-Russian soldiers. When he brings it up, Ritter brushes it off like it's no big deal. Just when they're about to leave, a rocket slams into the hallway. Chaos. Some of the team are killed, and their leader, Greer, falls through the floor. John wants to go save her, but Ritter decides to bail, leaving her behind. John and a couple of Marines stay and help Greer, who's under attack. John jumps into the hole and helps fight off the attackers. That's when they discover the place is actually a Russian weapons stash. Yeah, Ritter totally lied. They fight their way out. John takes down two waiting guards like it's nothing. They catch up to Ritter, who's about to board a chopper. John demands answers, but Ritter just grins. John almost loses it and grabs him, but Greer tells him to back off. Ritter then calls in an airstrike, blowing the depot to pieces. 3 months later, John and his wife Pam are at his parents' house, celebrating her being 6 months pregnant. John's left the Marines and has a new gig lined up in private security, which he's excited about. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, John's old Marine buddy Rowdy steps outside to toss some trash, and out of nowhere, a van runs him over, killing him. In Atlanta, another Marine named Keith is caught in traffic when armed guys jump out of van and gun him down. Back at John's place, he and Pam return from the party and are getting ready for bed. He talks to their unborn baby, tries to be affectionate, but Pam's too sleepy. He heads downstairs to chill with some music. Outside, a hit team cuts the power. John's laptop dies suddenly, and he realizes something's up. He hears the floor creaking above and grabs his gun and flashlight. Upstairs, the killers enter Pam's room and open fire on the bed. One of them shoots another, clearly a mistake. John reaches the stairs, takes out one guy, and kills another. But during a shootout with the last one, he gets hit. Both men are down. The attacker runs off, dragging himself away. John, badly injured, crawls to the bedroom and finds Pam dead. He holds the sheets, heartbroken, before blacking out. John ends up in the hospital, barely alive. Meanwhile, the CIA and Marines hold a meeting. Ritter hints that maybe the SEALs had shady dealings, which doesn't sit right with Greer. She confronts him, demanding the truth, but Ritter keeps it vague. John's in a coma, dreaming of Pam, then suddenly has a seizure. He wakes up days later with Greer by his side. He asks about Pam and the baby and breaks down when he learns both are gone. He's determined to find out who did it, convinced it was done by professionals. He remembers the guy he killed in the house and the one who got away. But Greer doesn't have any names for him. Later, Greer is called to meet Secretary of Defense Clay. He says her father speaks highly of her and wants to know if they can trust John, because he's cooking up a plan. John starts recovery, and soon Greer joins Clay and Ritter for a meeting. Ritter shows them a picture of the son of the FSB, Russia's intel agency, boss who was killed during their raid. He believes this is payback. Greer asks about a fourth attacker seen in the photos, but Ritter shrugs it off and says the CIA's done with the case. They consider things even. Greer's pissed. She finds John and tells him they should grab a drink. She finally gets why he's so mad and shows him the photos of the attackers. Except one is missing. That one? A complete ghost. All three had fake passports. All trace back to a former FSB guy named Andre Vazel, someone they can't touch. A few nights later, John returns to his home, still marked as a crime scene. He walks through the wreckage, overwhelmed with grief. He heads to the basement and pulls out a stash of weapons and cash. Upstairs, he douses himself in liquor and loads up. John tracks down Vazel at a consulate. Pretending to be drunk, he picks a fight with the guards outside. He spots Vasil leaving in a convoy and jumps in his truck to tail them. Then he calls 911 and reports that someone in the convoy flashed a gun, prompting police to stop the vehicles. Now Vasil's alone. John crashes into his car, pins it, and starts pouring gasoline all over it. He shoots the driver, then pulls a gun on Vasil, demanding the name of the last guy from the hit team. When Vasil stalls, John shoots him in the leg. Vasil finally says John himself was the target. He wasn't supposed to be alive. John shoots him again, this time in the chest, puncturing a lung. Vasil gives up the name, Viktor Rykov. John ends it by killing Vasil and surrendering to the cops. The story hits the media. Russian hitmen took out U.S. Marines. But the CIA and government scramble to bury the truth. Ritter accuses Greer of leaking info to John. He warns Clay that it could trigger trouble with Russia. Clay, unfazed, says John just rattled the cage they couldn't touch, and they'll have to wait and see what happens. John's thrown in prison, facing life. Greer visits him. He doesn't regret anything. He feels betrayed and crushed by what he's lost. But he tells her there's more, some new lead. If Clay wants to know, he better get him out. Back in his cell, John hears voices in Russian outside his door. Then a guard shows up, telling him he's being transferred. John refuses to move. The guard walks off. John wraps his fist with a towel, takes off his shirt, and floods the cell with water. He's ready for war. Suddenly, a bunch of guards storm in, but John fights back, taking them down one by one. He grabs one of them, threatens to kill him unless the others back off. They do for now. More guards approach, but just then, U.S. Marshals arrive and stop everything. One of them hands John a phone. On the other end, Greer. She simply says, "Follow them. They'll get you out." John ends up in a super secret location, one of those off-the-grid places where they don't ask too many questions. Inside, he's greeted by Clay, Ritter, and Sarah, the head of the CIA. They want to know what John's been digging into, and he drops a bombshell, the name Viktor Rykov. Sarah's clearly shaken by the name, but plays it off like Viktor's already dead. Ritter fumbles around, trying to dodge the topic, until he finally admits that Viktor is very much alive. And surprise, he's the guy leading the squad that attacked them. John picks him out in a bunch of photos without hesitation, making Sarah and Ritter nervous. Ritter says they need to capture Viktor ASAP, and John demands to be part of the mission. Clay shoots that down, saying no way. Oddly, even Greer backs Clay, saying John's not ready. But after thinking for a moment, Clay changes his tune and tells John he can go, but once it's over, he's going right back behind bars. John later meets up with the team in a hangar where they're prepping for a risky mission. They're taking a commercial plane to Russia and jumping out midair. Ritter, of course, decides to ride separately and says he'll catch up with them later. While in the air, John teases Greer a bit about not vouching for him earlier. She says she was just trying to protect him. John admits he's been blaming himself, thinking maybe if he'd quit the Marines earlier, Pam and the baby would still be alive. But he's not backing down now. He wants revenge, plain and simple. Greer reminds him this is a rescue mission, not a revenge trip, but John's too far gone to listen. As they're about to jump, a Russian fighter jet shows up and warns their pilot to back off. The pilot refuses, so the jet fires a missile and wrecks the engines. The plane is going down fast, crashing into the sea. Greer tells everyone to bail, but John stays behind to save their gear. The mission's a bust without it. As the plane sinks, John dives down, attaches flotation gear to the bags, and pushes them up to the surface. Running low on air, he barely makes it out alive, but his team hauls him into an inflatable raft. They speed off toward their target. They get to a town and settle into a safe house. John's already suspicious. He thinks that plane attack wasn't random and that Ritter might be behind it. He's looking for answers. Meanwhile, Ritter and his team are casually watching news reports about the crash when John and his crew storm in and point guns at them. Ritter starts explaining, but John grabs him by the throat. Ritter swears he didn't betray the team and is just trying to stop Viktor. John lets go, and Ritter slinks away to change his pants, literally. Later, all of them pile into a van and roll up near the building where Viktor's hiding. John spots him through his scope. Greer notices and asks what he's doing. He tells her he's just watching. Nothing more. The team gets inside the building and starts moving up the stairs. John takes the lead, then locks the others out by shutting a gate. He walks into an apartment and sees that all the Russians inside are already dead. Then Viktor calls his name. He steps out, wearing a bomb vest, and tells John that they're both just pawns. John tries to keep him talking, but Viktor says he's doing this for his country and hits the detonator. Boom. gone. The rest of the team catches up to John, who tells Greer that Victor had been waiting for them. Suddenly, gunshots ring out. A sniper has eyes on them. One of the guys gets hit. They try figuring out where it's coming from, but there's no clear view. John grabs a broken piece of glass and uses it to reflect the sniper's location. He lays down cover fire while the others rush to help the injured teammate. But then a second sniper opens up, making things even worse. 2 local cops arrive, but they get gunned down too. John realizes this whole thing's a setup. Someone wants dead Russians on their turf and dead Americans on Russian soil to trigger a war. It's all a trap. While the team keeps firing back, John blows a hole through the wall to get into another apartment. He and Greer plan a risky move. He'll distract the sniper while she sneaks up behind him. She gets into position, jumps the guy, and manages to stab him to death after a brutal fight. They regroup and head to the lobby, but it's swarming with police. No way out. John comes up with a wild idea. He'll cause a distraction so everyone else can slip away. Greer doesn't like it, but John reminds her he's a felon. If anyone can be left behind without creating an international mess, it's him. She agrees, reluctantly. John heads to the rooftop and starts throwing grenades, letting bullets fly to buy time. The cops rush up, but he holds them off until he's shot in the shoulder. He crashes through part of the roof, lands inside, and takes on a soldier in hand-to-hand combat. After taking him out, John grabs a rifle and tears through the stairwell, scattering the enemies. He plants a bomb from his bag and sets it off, shaking the whole building. Amid the confusion, John slips out wearing a Russian military uniform. He steals an ambulance and drives, barely conscious, back to the safe house. Greer finds him there and helps him inside. The team eventually gets extracted by boat. On the way out, John says Victor was just another piece in a much bigger game. They'll never find out who's really running things. He knows he's going back to prison, but Ritter surprises him, offering money and a clean slate. Ritter knows they'll have a better shot figuring things out with John working in the shadows. Sometime later, Clay's at dinner, watching the news about rising tensions between Russia and the US. He heads to the restroom without his security. That's when John shows up. He confronts Clay, talking about how the mission was doomed from the start. When Clay accidentally lets slip some info he shouldn't know, John realizes Clay was in on it from the beginning. He grabs Clay and knocks him out cold. Clay wakes up tied up in John's van. John wants answers. Clay stays quiet. John then threatens to kill Clay's family. That gets him talking. Clay admits everything. He orchestrated the chaos to push America into another war. He believes the country is at its strongest when it's fighting someone. John, dead-eyed, buckles in and drives straight off a bridge, plunging them into the river. He tells Clay to say Pam's name, but even when he does, John watches him drown. As Clay sinks, John imagines being reunited with Pam in the afterlife. The news later shows a funeral for both John and Pam. Greer accepts the folded flag, tears in her eyes. She walks back to her van, and there's John, very much alive. Turns out, he recorded everything Clay confessed. Ritter used it as leverage to cut a deal, giving John a brand new identity. Later, at a quiet train station, John says goodbye to Greer. It's time to disappear and start fresh.